Hi, my name is Victoria Higgins. I'm going to walk you through the process. This is some Lollipop material and Lollipop 3D printing to be exact on how do we use ThinkerCad. Then from there, put everything we have 3D printed or really 3D modeled and put that into PrusaSlicer. So I will go on and I will share my screen and walk through that process with you. So at this point, you should be able to see my screen. I'm logged into my Google account, but I'm going to log into TinkerCAD now. Once I have arrived at TinkerCAD, I'm already logged into my account. Once you're logged into your account, you should see something like this, which should also show some previous 3D models and circuits maybe you have also created in the past. I'm going to hit the plus create button, and then I'm going to hit 3D design. Once I've hit 3D design, I'm going to be shown this blank 3D modeling plate, which already has a name pre-made that's just random. I can choose to keep that name the same or change it by clicking on it. And I'm going to click on it. And because I want to change it, I'm going to change it to Victoria. Victoria's test. Print. And once I've changed it to Victoria's test print, I'm going to then click and drag whatever shapes I want. So I'm going to click it over and drag it, and I can choose to scale it up or scale it down to whatever size I want. And let's say for today, I'm going to delete that object. I want to create a house. So I'm going to click and drag that object. Once I've clicked and dragged that object, I just clicked on my screen at a random place so I can remove those boxes. I'm going to now click on this roof button, and once I see that white circle looking thing on top of the red square as top surface, I'm just going to align it as best as possible, the roof with the top square, and I'm going to let go. And now I have this green square around it, which is basically saying, hey, if you look at me, I am placed on top of that surface, not the blue surface, but that green surface, which means now we have a house with a roof, which is perfect. So I'm just going to click somewhere and then our house. Now, as we can see, this house is a little bit off centered. That's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to use our left and right arrows to try to really get as centered as possible. But even then, we might run into some issues with symmetry. Right now, it looks pretty fine, but oh, there's a little corner on right there. So, still a little off. So, what I'm really going to do to fix this issue is I'm going to select both objects by clicking at one corner and dragging. I have selected both objects. You should also see in the corner, it should say two shapes. That two shapes just let me know, hey, Victoria, you have now selected two shapes. If I really am still kind of confused of like what those two shapes are, I can choose to um I can choose to change both of these to a certain color. So where it says solid, I can then click on that and change them to blue, for example. And now I know I've clicked on both those objects. I'm now going to click on this top button right here. No, I'm not actually. I'm gonna click on this button, which means to align. Once I click on the align button, it's then going to give me a couple different points where I can align the objects. It's also going to show me which object is going to move if you see the objects really highlighting themselves. So I'm going to click on the center one just to make sure that it aligns in the center. And now we know that these two shapes are fully aligned with each other. We are now going to click on the export button, right? Because I want to export it to PrusaSlicer. So I'm going to click on export. Once I click on export, I'm going to hit .stl. Well, actually, just because, make sure that I'm only exporting this. I'm just going to click everything in the design first in case anytime it says selected shapes, just click on everything in the design. Then .stl, always export as .stl. Once I do that, I'm going to then hit save. I've hit saved. It now says Victoria's test print.stl. I'm then going to, on my screen, open up PrusaSlicer. Now that PrusaSlicer is opening, I'm going to hit cancel. and make this my big screen, I am going to, for some people, you may not have to click and drag. For others, you may have to. Just go to my downloads guide, which was over here. Click on Victoria's test print and drag that over. Let me share my whole screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Um, Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so basically I've taken this Victoria's test print, clicked on it, and dragged it over to PrusaSlicer. Once I drag it over to PrusaSlicer, I now have my house, which in my opinion looks pretty awesome. So now we have our house. It's a 3D model. It's fully ready to print, and really all set to go. There is still some uneven parts, but we can also just fix that in like one more aligning in ThinkerCad, which is how we use those different black points to hit the align button. Once we have that done, we see that doesn't need any supports, which is basically support material. If you're printing a bridge, that arch in the bridge, the top of the arch would need support material to make sure that the bridge doesn't just collapse. But for this print, we should be fine. We just want to make sure we change it to the right filament that we're using. You know, it could be using a variety of different filaments. We want to make sure that we click on PLA. Once we click on PLA, because we don't need supports, we're not going to do that. Always click on the print quality that you want, because we're not printing something that's crazy, like or something that we want to be really defined, maybe not for a project or something. We're just going to hit draft. Make sure that we have selected the right printer. It could be a mini, it could be a Prusa mini, or it could also be an MK4, which is a bigger printer. Of course, you saw the object change on like a smaller surface versus a bigger surface. So it makes a difference. Excuse me. We don't need any supports. Infill, we can change that. Basically, how weak or how strong do we want it to be? If you go for 0%, the print will 9 times out of 10 be quicker. If you go for 100%, the print will be slower, only because it's like 100% more, basically a solid amount of filament inside of it versus no filament inside of it. Great. So we can go ahead and hit slice now. Once we hit slice now, we see that it takes 21 minutes. And we can see that over here. I'm just gonna move my stuff around. So 21 minutes, really not that long. I always talk about 3D printing. So it tells us right here, total 21. Also the different layers that it has, like perimeter, external perimeter, internal infill, solid infill, custom, blah blah, and how much time that takes, the percentage, and then also the use filament, how much filament it's using for those different layers. It gives us that in two different measurements. And basically, that is how we get one file from ThinkerCad that we have now created into PrusaSlicer. I will be posting soon two different videos. One video on the important parts of PrusaSlicer, which is the app that you use if you are 3D printing with a Prusa machinery. And another video on how we use ThinkerCad, what really makes ThinkerCad work, and what are really the important details that surround ThinkerCad. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation slash recording of the different integral pieces that go into really, printing, and also really the simple parts that go into just printing something that you want to print because you find it fun. I'm posting this on Lollipop 3D printing, and please follow us for more YouTube videos about 3D printing.